The objectification of women is absolutely rampant. I see it everywhere, I feel it constantly, and I think it's getting worse. From Sydney Sweeney selling soap including her bathwater and using her good genes to sell jeans,
hair color, personality, and even eye color,
to the exponential growth of OnlyFans producing stars like Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue, the blepharoplasty that's been popularised by celebrities and influencers, which is where a part of your upper eyelid is surgically removed to give you more of a cat eye shape, to the TikTok trend of morning shed routines where girls show you all of the different things they've worn overnight to make themselves look better in the morning, to the incredibly dangerous trend of women ordering Botox to do on themselves at home. Even tiny things like these candles being really popular that are seen as a celebration of the female form, but they all look exactly the same, conform completely to the beauty standard, and don't include the women's heads. Or these chiropractor and fitness videos using women's bodies to hook the viewer. I make video essays on pop and internet culture where I talk a lot about gender, mental health and class, so if you're into that kind of thing, make sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. I'll link my Instagram, Substack and Patreon down below, and we're currently reading this book in the Patreon book club. This video is going to be a little bit more chatty and personal, so let's get straight into it. Thinking about objectification for basically the entire of 2025. It just feels extremely relevant and extremely prevalent right now. So much so that I can't seem to get it off of my mind. I know that everyone is different, so there are definitely going to be some women that feel differently to me. I think I speak for a lot of women when I say the beauty standard has gotten absolutely out of fucking control. The standards, the expectations, the pressures are suffocating, and they can feel all-consuming and inescapable. No matter how many positive affirmations women say to themselves in the mirror, no matter how much women do their gratitude journaling or practice self-love. But talking about objectification feels very 2010s. It feels like something that has been absolutely talked to death. It can almost feel like the punchline to a joke, and yet here it is in our culture, alive and well. And I think it's getting worse, particularly with the advancements in cosmetic procedures and AI. I think it's kind of important to differentiate between sexualization and objectification. I say kind of important because I think they morph into the same thing down the road anyway. But sexualization isn't inherently objectifying. There are moments for almost everybody where we want to be sexualized. Viewing someone in a sexual manner or finding them attractive is obviously not wrong or inherently objectifying. Objectification is when you remove a person's human characteristics in your mind and look at them as having basically only one function, the way you would view an object. I actually think that objectification is something that we all do, no matter our gender or sexuality to a degree. I think it can be first instinct for most of us. For example, swiping yes or no on a dating app. At that moment, you're probably not thinking about these people as full, well-rounded individuals with hopes and dreams and fears and hobbies and family. That does eventually come for a lot of people when meeting in person. But in that moment on the app, you're evaluating their profile in kind of a detached way, almost as if evaluating a product. Trying to completely eliminate objectification doesn't really seem realistic to me, but I think we can definitely do a better job than what we're currently doing, especially when we're honest with ourselves about what objectification is doing to women psychologically. I think that misogyny is a spectrum, and I'm trusting you to remember that throughout this video. Women have grown up experiencing misogyny in different forms and severities, and been conditioned to think a lot of that is normal to experience. Likewise, men have grown up seeing misogyny in different forms and severities and have been conditioned to think that a lot of that is normal to enact. And because I believe that misogyny is a spectrum, I do think that most men can display misogynistic behaviour without even really meaning to. That doesn't mean I think most men are like Andrew Tate. I actually think the opposite of that. I think that most men are not that bad. But I do think that most men have at least a small problem with objectifying women. And I think that that's because of how we've all been conditioned, not just men. We have all been socialized to deeply value beauty in women, but not in men. That idea is so deeply entrenched in society that I've noticed a lot of men have a hard time recognizing objectification as a problem, or even noticing that they're doing it at all. It's become so completely normalized in everyday life that we don't even bat an eyelid when people say things like women are just better looking than men. Have you heard people say that? Because I have, and it's like, according to who? We think that women are the more beautiful gender because we project that onto them and demand it, while we let men get away with 3-in-1 shampoo and never washing their face. It's kind of like an order, like, your gender is admired for its beauty, now go and do that. So I'm talking about how embedded objectification is in our lives, and about how most men, even good men, even kind men, might be perpetuating it without considering the impact on the women around them. Let's talk about the performative male. This is a trend that's taken over the internet recently. It feels like a long time coming critique and mocking of a type of man who presents a more gentle type of masculinity through how he dresses, the books he reads, things he says, and he kind of signals to women that they're safe with him.
These Claro whisperers, is it Claro? You do know. These Claro whisperers curate softness for the female gaze and use feminism to speedrun to the eat your patchouli stage. Performative males are just radical enough to retweet the right ideas and not enough to realise that they're shouting them over you. Identity became something you wear once and throw away rather than something that lives inside you.
When you see some people talking about the idea of the performative male, there can definitely be a malicious element to it. Like, some of these men might actually be terrible people and intentionally disguising themselves to appeal to women. I'm not really talking about those men right now. I think the performative male also includes a type of man that would describe himself as progressive or left-leaning or politically aware, maybe even a feminist or an ally, but doesn't really do anything to ever interrogate his own misogyny. And if you're a man watching this who describes himself in this way, remember, I think misogyny is a spectrum. I'm not saying you're a red-pilled incel about to commit violence against women. Misogyny is something that we've all been taught. No one escapes it. Yes, even if you're a man who loves his mom and reads Sylvia Plath, you've probably got a bit of misogyny going on in there. And I think a big way that misogyny shows up is in objectifying women. So if you're a man who claims to understand the pressure that's on women to look a certain way, why do you follow a bunch of Instagram models and then call your girlfriend insecure for not liking it? Why are your favourite female musicians and actresses only women that you find attractive? Why are all of your female friends women that you think are hot, women that you've previously had sex with, or women that you would have sex with given the chance? If those are the only women that you're friends with, you're not really friends with them, you're objectifying them. You're looking at women through the lens of sexuality only. And I find that a lot of men struggle to engage with these things. They think that because they're not on the extreme end of the misogyny spectrum, that they don't have any misogyny at all. I also think that a lot of men don't agree that the things I've just mentioned are objectification, which I think demonstrates their conditioning to look at women's bodies and faces in a sexual way. It's like they think there's not another way to engage with a woman. It can feel like there's a lack of looking inward, which can be surprising if they describe themselves as a feminist or leftist or whatever. There's obviously not a problem in finding people attractive, but when that's the only way that you engage with women, that is a problem. So this brings me to the male gaze. And a lot of you probably know what that is, but if you don't, this is a term coined by film theorist Laura Mulvey to describe the way that the camera assumes the point of view of a straight man, and that is the viewpoint in which women are represented on screen. Women have since been using this term, the male gaze, to describe experiences that they have in real life. We often attribute things that men find attractive in women down to things like evolutionary factors or personal preferences, which obviously everyone is entitled to have, or even beauty trends, which change throughout history and culture. But the male gaze is far more than this, and it's far more insidious because of what it does to women mentally. And I want to kind of explain what happens here. Women and girls completely absorb and internalize beauty standards, and that's a process that's been happening ever since we were really little. Watching Disney films with princesses that are all thin and light-skinned, we internalize everything we hear boys say at school, things like body hair being gross, for example. We watch men going crazy over whoever the current sex symbol is and comparing ourselves to them. And you might think, well, just don't compare yourself. Two women can be beautiful in their own ways and look nothing alike. Obviously, this is true, but that's not what we're taught, and that's not what's ingrained in us. Women are encouraged our whole lives to see our appearance as a reflection of our self-worth, and our appearances are often quantified. We're put into hierarchies and scales. It's not something we can escape by avoiding social media, because men often tell us to our faces. I have had multiple men rank me out of 10 to my face. I had an ex-boyfriend who told me explicitly sexual things that he would do with other women if he had the opportunity. We absorb and internalize these things because it's so rampant and pervasive. How could we possibly not? Because we're taught that our self-worth lies in how we look, beauty is quantifiable, this turns our appearances into a game or a competition that we can win. You might think, a game or competition for what? For men's approval. As a woman, men's approval can feel like powerful social currency, and we've noticed that we are rewarded with it or praised if we adhere to certain beauty standards. And this can really fuck up a woman's relationship with her appearance. Here's a really great quote from John Berger, which explains what the male gaze does to women's psyches. Men act and women appear. Men look at women. Women watch themselves being looked at. This determines not only most relations between men and women, but also the relation of women to themselves. The surveyor of woman in herself is male, the surveyed female. Thus, she turns herself into an object of vision, a sight. The male gaze can make it really difficult for a woman to get in touch with what she actually wants to look like and how she wants to present in the world. It can make us feel like we're performing at times, and here is another great quote from Margaret Atwood. "You are a woman with a man inside watching a woman. You are your own voyeur." Men don't fully understand the relationship we have with our appearance because they don't experience anything like it. Of course, there are men who feel insecure, and there are women who can be very disparaging about men's appearances. But on a societal level, men just don't have the same sense of being constantly looked at and evaluated. I mean, I feel like we even see this with how often women take selfies compared to men. Women's approval of men's appearances just doesn't hold the same social currency. As a woman from a young age, we understand that there is value in how we look, more so than for men. And we get this from explicit and implicit messaging. We learn that for women, attractiveness is social capital. It's valued above almost anything else. It makes you worth something. It makes people treat you better, and there is research to back that up. It's what's been coined as pretty privilege. Anything from women getting free drinks in clubs to only. Usually when those things are brought up, it's used to try and persuade us that women live life on easy mode. And yes, I'm sure that getting free drinks in a club or having the only job in the world where a woman is paid more than a man is nice, but these things only exist because we've created an environment where women's attractiveness is capital. Sometimes the small things like getting a free drink can be beneficial, but it comes at the cost of being objectified. And who is buying the drinks? Who is subscribing to the OnlyFans? Also, when these things are brought up, we usually only focus on the women experiencing these benefits, but even the women who aren't see and hear what's going on and also internalize that women's value comes from their beauty. It can be difficult to talk about cosmetic procedures or tweakments without sounding like you're bashing the women that get them. People can be very quick to call you a pick-me or not a girl's girl if you say anything negative about cosmetic procedures. I don't judge women for getting any kind of work done or wearing any kind of makeup, but I do think we have to be honest about what's happening. Women see that the women who are valued and praised for their beauty all look a certain kind of way, whether that's women we know in real life or influencers or celebrities. I'm sure that regular women have always felt like they're falling short compared to the rich and famous, and honestly every gender probably feels like that a little bit. But something I see with men is they might feel like they're falling short in terms of their appearance, but they usually don't feel worthless because of that. And two, the beauty standard is so inextricably high for women now. I don't know how we let it get this high. I think it's fair to say that most women who are big influencers or big celebrities either have had cosmetic surgery or tweakments like lip filler and Botox, or at the very least they have regular beauty treatments like facials, for example. And I just wanted to take a moment to list some of these cosmetic procedures that a lot of you might not be familiar with, because for most of us they're not in our budgets, and some of you are going to be men watching and these treatments are not usually targeted or marketed towards you. I'm also going to be showing you photos, so if you're squeamish, just close your eyes for like 20 seconds. Popular treatments right now include the blepharoplasty that I mentioned earlier, where you get part of your eyelid surgically removed, microneedling, also known as the vampire facial that the Kardashians popularized, where you get your skin poked with tiny little needles and then the blood is smeared around your face, polynucleotides, which is when you get salmon semen injected into your face to plump out the under eye hollows. A new surgery called Barbie waist surgery, where you get one of your ribs removed to create an hourglass figure, and buccal fat removal, where you get the fat in your cheeks removed via an incision on the inside of your mouth. Not to mention the more accessible beauty treatments and body maintenance, things like lash lifts, lash tints, lash extensions, brow tints, brow laminations, waxing, shaving, epilating, sugaring, lasering, fake tan, lymphatic drainage, or skincare that is recommended for you to start as soon as possible so you don't experience horrific things like aging. Products like retinoids, peptides, lactic acid, hyaluronic acid, AHA, glycolic acid, niacinamide, vitamin C, salicylic acid. Can you blame any of us for hating our own faces? There was once a time where it was kind of obvious if someone had plastic surgery, but now, especially with the rise of lip filler and blepharoplasties, cosmetic procedures are becoming so good, so undetectable, and so common. They are changing the landscape of what beauty is. We are becoming attracted to something that doesn't exist. What I'm saying isn't the same as calling women fake who have had cosmetic procedures. Although beauty is valued and praised in women, women are still criticized for being fake or vain or image obsessed if they have work done. This is not about putting a value judgment on women who choose to change up their appearance. This is about acknowledging that the expectations for women's looks are increasing to a degree that is not realistic. And we haven't even got to AI yet.
Society now expects every other woman to have African lips, Scandinavian nose, Arabian eyes, Korean skin, Italian jawline, Asian hair, Eastern European cheekbones, hairless body of teenage girl with curves of black woman. This made-up woman is not a woman. She is a marketing project.
If we find women more attractive when they have lip filler or Botox or edit their photos or aren't even real, we need to ask ourselves, what are we actually attracted to? The word lust always feels a little bit biblical, so I think people don't often resonate with it. But when I think of lust, it's something other than just finding someone attractive. It's this like thirsting over, drooling over, which does suggest that you might think women are a spectacle made for your viewing pleasure, or it might suggest that you don't have the strongest willpower to not look. Pinterest is where I first noticed the AI. If you search for a certain makeup or hair look, Pinterest offers you images of real women, but also AI women. And the AI women tend to be everything that we're taught is desirable. Full lips, big eyes, thin, light skin. Apparently, magazines are doing this now as well, including Vogue, where there are entire spreads of AI women. They are such sophisticated images that you would never know unless you checked the photo credit, where they tell you it's AI and tell you the prompt that they used. Interestingly enough, on this reel, it shows you the prompt. It's fascinating to me how just typing in woman gives you the outcome of a white woman, like that's just the default. Forget about putting photographers and makeup artists out of a job for just a second, and think about how utterly deceiving that is for the average person looking at this magazine. Our brains are being trained to view something that isn't even real as the pinnacle of beauty, as something to aspire to. How could we ever look as perfect as an AI photo? Maybe we could achieve it for a fleeting moment. Maybe we could take one perfect selfie. But every night when we go to bed, we take our makeup off. There isn't ideal lighting. Real women can't maintain perfection, but AI always can.
Okay, so here I am on the beach right now, except I'm not really wearing makeup, and my waist is not really that small, my boobs aren't really that big, my hips aren't really the shape, and I don't actually have a suntan yet, but because it's the internet, I am able to show up as a version of myself that is completely fabricated, which in turn may leave you comparing yourself to a version of me that does not even exist. So yeah, after all of that, the thing that I had to show you was a completely normal human body that is all too easy to manipulate on the internet.
And like, sometimes I think about things that I hear men say to their wives or girlfriends to try and like reassure them. Even really like well-intentioned things like, those images may be perfect, but you're the most beautiful girl to me, or your insert feature here may not be perfect, but I still think you're beautiful, continues to place women in hierarchies. You're positioning your partner as beautiful, but other women, increasingly AI women, as perfect. These sort of comments might make individual women feel better, but they don't really solve the core problem that I'm talking about. This video is interrupted by me. What if I told you you could join the Thoughtbug Patreon and get perks like having your name in the video credits, bonus videos, and a book club? Well, that would probably just knock your socks off, wouldn't it? It would knock my socks off though. Do you know why? Because I'm a bug. There are different price points for different budgets, even one for less than a cup of coffee. And if you could help fund this channel, you will have my eternal gratitude, as well as all the perks I literally just mentioned. Are you listening? Hello. Join Patreon today with the link below. Okay, so I want to talk about this thing called micro-cheating, which is a phrase that a lot of women are using to describe certain men's behaviours, like watching porn, staring at women in public, liking women's bikini pictures, following women to look at their bikini pictures.
There's a whole debate going on right now about what is considered micro-cheating, and it can literally be anything that causes you to distrust your partner.
Deleting messages, secretly messaging somebody, liking or following people you think are attractive on Instagram, or OF models, IG models.
Micro-cheating is kind of controversial because a lot of people think it's silly and that these behaviours don't qualify as cheating. I have to agree a little bit. I don't know if I would use the word cheating to describe those things, but to the women who do use the phrase micro-cheating, I want to say that you don't have to label something as cheating for it to be bad or for it to have a negative impact on you. I think women are trying to put language to normalized behaviors that are causing problems in their relationships with men, but many women don't feel like they have any authority in expressing their feelings to men, so they might be resorting to using this powerful word that we all understand, which is cheating. And if we think about some of these normalized behaviors, I'm sure there's more that I haven't mentioned, they are quite vapid and meaningless. For example, pointing out a hot woman that you see when you're on a date with your girlfriend isn't really that important. Like, you could live without doing that. Or following an Instagram model so you can get a fleeting hit of dopamine when you see their brand new bikini picture is also not that important, which is why it can be so frustrating to women when men they're in relationships with refuse to stop doing these things. It can be really indicative of how he views women, what he thinks women's purpose is and what he believes that he's entitled to look at or to say out loud.
Yeah, leaving him is scary, but imagine in 10 years' time still checking the following list of the father of your children.
It's just a like. It doesn't mean anything. I'll just leave my Instagram. Why does it matter? She has a boyfriend, but I just go and like everything on my feed.
Oh my god, whose profile photo? Oh my god. He's just spreading the love. He loves women. Let's go.
Think about everything that we've talked about in this video so far, about how women are conditioned since childhood to value their appearance, how men tell women their beauty is valuable, how attractiveness is seen as quantifiable, how women have parts of their face cut off to be more attractive, how the beauty standard for women is quite literally becoming inhuman. Now, think about your girlfriend asking you to stop staring at other women when you're out at a bar. Or think about her asking you to stop liking photos of girls in their underwear.
A man that loves you will not be validating other women on the internet and liking half-naked pictures of them, showing everybody else on the internet that that's what he truly likes, even though he's in a relationship with you.
Her insecurity doesn't necessarily come from a deep wounded place. It comes from you. Dismissing her concerns over behaviour like this is a bit like her telling you that she has chronic headaches from building work that is non-stop outside of her house, and you telling her to go and get an MRI scan on her brain. The problem isn't internal, it's external. You can be the most confident woman in the world. If these things happen often enough, it's going to have an impact on you.
She'll never believe you when you call her beautiful because you're lusting over 1,000 women who look nothing like her.
Not only is the beauty standard simply too high now, there's another standard emerging out of this as well, which is the standard of security and confidence. Most people will tell you that they find confidence is attractive, which makes sense. The word insecure can be weaponized against women when we speak up about something that we don't like.
Telling a girl that she's insecure because you just did something shady is the most pathetic form of manipulation I could think of. When a woman calls you out because you started following some girl, like a creep, mind you, she's not being insecure. She's letting you know that she knows what you're up to.
Being insecure, even if you have good reason to be, has become something that women do not want to be under absolutely any circumstances. It can actually be seen, even amongst women, as kind of a low status thing to be. Calling a woman insecure is a way to blame her rather than address the root cause, which a lot of the time I believe is objectification. I went on a first date with a man ages ago, literally like years and years ago, where within the first hour he told me how much he wanted to fuck Dua Lipa. If you're a woman watching this video, let me know your similar experiences in the comments because I know that you have them. I think sometimes men hear us talk about situations like this and they either think they're unusual situations, they're not, they're actually super common, or they just don't see the problem with it. You know, with the example I gave, a man might say something like, well, it was only the first date, you weren't committed, he's never going to meet Dua Lipa, so what's the problem? This sort of behaviour is rude and disrespectful. Unfortunately, like I said, it's quite common, but it's still rude and disrespectful. Telling a woman that you're on a first date with how much you'd like to have sex with another woman kind of kills the vibe. Even if she's a celebrity, is going to make your date compare herself to the other woman. This is going to make the woman you're with feel bad about herself, even if that's not what you're intending to do. And something that I hear quite often from men is that if it was the other way around, if a woman they were on a first date with told them how much she wanted to sleep with a celebrity, that they wouldn't mind. And I actually believe them. I believe that a lot of men wouldn't be fazed by this at all. However, that's not a sign that there's something wrong with women's psyches. That is a sign that objectification does not affect men in the same way. This is a sign of how men are not valued or pedestaled for their beauty in the same way that women are. This is a sign that men are encouraged to have self-esteem outside of their attractiveness when women are not. This is a sign that the chronic and pervasive comparison that exists between women does not exist between men in the same way. I'm not sure that gamification is quite the word that I'm looking for here, but there's something about how there's always a new level to unlock with relationships. There's the talking stage, and then the situationship, and then you're exclusive, and then maybe you graduate to an official relationship. Unlocking these levels kind of reminds me of the quantifying that happens to women's appearances by putting them into hierarchies, like rating them out of 10, and how like the quantifying can get so specific. Have you ever heard someone say something like, she's an 8.5 but she's a 9? It's like, what's the 0.5 difference? Her eye colour? Does she have a side parting and you prefer centre? Like, what is the 0.5 difference? I dated a man a few years ago who every time we sat down to watch something on TV, he would comment on who he thought was the most attractive woman on the show, and sometimes he would ask me to point out who I thought was the most attractive woman was. The crazy thing was, this was literally every time we watched something. I'm not exaggerating. It was almost like he wasn't not able to have that conversation every time he was looking at a woman on a screen. It was like he was incapable of not doing it. After a while, it started to come off like he thought he was the arbiter of women's attractiveness. It certainly sounded like it with the frequency that he talked about it to me. Lastly, I want to talk about how women might engage with self-objectification. I saw a clip recently of the burlesque dancer Dita Von Teese talking about how sometimes she actually enjoys being objectified.
I know it's really like taboo to say, but sometimes you're just like, I just want to be objectified for a minute. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, and how refreshing to say that.
Yeah, I want to be sexualized and objectified sometimes.
Yeah,
you know. But
I think that's so
and I do
refreshing
actually, funnily, like I think I'm also so used to having like a theater full of like women that are there maybe because they read my book or whatever, or they follow me. And then sometimes when there's, especially this happens in Vegas, when there's like, you know, people that are not usually, they don't know me, they don't know what my show is about, they are just walking into it and they're just like, yeah, this is hot. And I'm like, oh good, I'm glad that it's still like sexy and hot too.
I know a lot of women that might agree with her, even if it's in a different context, not an audience of men, but at home with their like husband or boyfriend. I think it's interesting how objectification can feel good, how it can satisfy something in us, make us feel accepted, included, valued, worth something. The reasons we think like this is not because something's wrong with us, but because that's what we've been told our entire lives. Dita Von Teese is clearly gorgeous, but it's not lost on me that she is in her 50s. And remember, in the eyes of society, women's value is in their beauty, and beauty decreases as you age. As women get older, I've heard them talk about how they notice men stop doing things like catcalling them or making sexual comments to them. These problematic behaviours that they didn't enjoy when they were younger, but are now noticeably absent from their lives. The complex feelings that older women have around this don't come from them necessarily wanting men to stare at them or leer at them, but it comes from noticing visible signs that they are being valued less. I think it's also important to mention that I think one of the reasons Dita Von Teese wanted her audience to objectify her is because that's how she makes her money. Some women are okay with being objectified because they're playing a game, and that's the game of capitalism. I think a good example of this is Sydney Sweeney with some of the roles she takes on and the bathwater and the jeans. Some women want to be objectified because they know that it's financially advantageous for them. Something that blew my mind a little bit when I first learned about it was the concept of self-objectification. Body image therapist Ashley Bennett gives a few examples of what this means in this Instagram post. When you look in the mirror and you zoom in on parts of your body and evaluate them through the lens of current beauty ideals, the majority of your worth is based on your perception of how others rate your physical attractiveness. When around others, you visualize how they see your body and if it's pleasing to them. You have trouble differentiating between your own beliefs around your body and internalized beliefs from TV, movies, and social media. And I think for me, figuring out this was self-objectification was mind-blowing because all of these things just feels so synonymous with being a woman. Like, I'm confident that every single woman watching this video has done at least some of those things. I don't really have an antidote for self-objectification, but something I'm really loving at the moment is when women look kind of weird. I really love it when I see women doing things like bleaching their eyebrows, for example, because it feels like such a niche thing to find attractive and such like a rebellion of traditional beauty standards. I also follow a couple of older women on Instagram who have like grey hair and fine lines. I just love seeing the joy that some older women have and how they don't let society steal that from them. Something I've been doing in my life to try and combat self-objectification is just trying to notice how often I look in the mirror and zoom in on little tiny details about myself. I've also been practicing mindfulness again recently, which helps with that. I've also started this thing where I delete social media at weekends, which has been really good. Anyway, I'm desperate to know what you think about all of this, so please let me know. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly more like chatty, meandering video. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel because it really does help. In between videos, you can find me over on Instagram. I'll link it below with my Substack and my Patreon. And just a reminder that we are reading this book, Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen, in the Patreon book club. So please join me over there and I will see you in my next video. Bye. Hash browns and garlic bread in the oven, and I'm gonna go and eat them with spaghetti hoops. This is a coin. No, it's not coin. This is a no, it's not. What was wrong with me? This is a term coined by film theorists.